What if the most honest conversation you'll ever have isn't with words, but with the sting of a bruised rib, the metallic taste of blood in your lungs, and the relentless rasp of discipline? Let that question linger as we step inside the world of Kyokushin, where comfort is the enemy and truth is forged in friction. Hey fighters, thinkers, and anyone who's ever stared at the ceiling after a day that felt like a marathon run in quicksand. Welcome to the Kyokushin Corner, the solo podcast where we turn sweat-soaked grit into crystal clear insight. This is my first podcast in this new series where we will talk about Kyokushin topics, martial arts, and much more. Most people go to the gym to feel better. But what if I told you that the most important lesson in life don't start when you feel good, they start the moment you want to quit? The dojo, the place that you train in, is not a place of comfort. In fact, if you walk in here looking for a safe space, you are in the wrong zip code. This isn't a studio for dance, and it's certainly not a playground for your ego. You are here because the modern world has made you soft, and you're looking for a way to sharpen those edges back into a blade. Welcome to the world of Kyokushin. And if you stick around until the end of this video, I am going to explain exactly why this specific style of karate is considered the way of the ultimate truth, and why the truth might just break you and then rebuild you stronger. We live in a world of filtered reality. Everything is polished, everything is convenient, and everything is designed to keep us comfortable. But comfort, remember, is a liar. Comfort tells you that you're doing enough when you're barely scratching the surface of your potential. To step onto Kyokushin mat is to accept a fundamental brutal proposition. That the only time you actually meet yourself, the real version of yourself, stripped of the titles, the social media persona, and the excuses, is at the absolute limit of your endurance. In Kyokushin, we don't shadowbox with ghosts. We don't focus on the static grace of a performance. People ask me, why don't you point spar? Why go full contact? And the answer is simple. You cannot know the truth of a technique until you feel the consequence of it. The truth in the dojo has a very specific texture. It feels like a bruised rib. It tastes like the metallic tang of iron in your lungs when you're pushed past your aerobic threshold. It also feels like a stinging shin that reminds you with every step you take to the grocery store the next morning that you were actually alive yesterday. Some people call this suffering. My karate students call it torture with a goal. They look at the bruises and the sweat and they ask, what is the point, sensei? But here's the loop. The more you endure the friction of the dojo, the more the softening edges of your life outside these walls start to disappear. You realize that the anxiety you felt about your job or the stress of your morning commute is just noise. When you've survived a round of heavy contact sparring, the trivial problems of your daily life don't just feel smaller, they feel manageable. You aren't just training to fight another person. You are training to fight the part of you that wants to settle. You are training to kill the comfortable version of yourself so that something stronger can take its place. Kyokushin isn't for the person who wants to look like a martial artist. It's for the person who wants to be a martial artist. But there's a trap here. Many people start, most people quit. You ask yourself, why is that? Because the truth is uncomfortable. It's heavy. It's exhausting. Most people are just looking for a shortcut to confidence or physical fitness and they stop. But in the way of the ultimate truth, there are no shortcuts. There's only repetition. There's only the next breath. There's only the next strike. Now, let's return to the question that opened our journey. What if the most honest conversation you'll ever have isn't with words, but with the sting of a bruised rib, the metallic taste of blood in your lungs, and the relentless rasp of discipline? The answer lives in every drop of sweat that hits the dojo floor, in every gasp that follows a fierce combination, and in the quiet pride that swells when you stand, bruised but unbroken after a grueling session. Kyokushin doesn't promise comfort. It promises authenticity, a truth you can feel in your bones, taste on your tongue, and hear in the echo of your own heart pounding against the limits you once thought were unbreakable. Remember, the truth isn't found in the absence of pain. It's discovered in the way you move through it. So, the question isn't whether you have the physical capacity to stand in a Kyokushin dojo. You do. You definitely do. The question is whether you have the mental capacity to withstand the friction. If you want to understand how a bruise can become a badge of honor, or how the absolute worst day of training can become the highlight of your month, you need to understand the philosophy behind the pain. In the next part of this series, we're going to break down the Kyokushin mindset, how to bridge the gap between that feeling of total exhaustion and the clarity that follows. But before we get there, I want to hear from you. When was the last time you did something that made your lungs burn? When was the last time you chose the hard path just to see if you could handle it? Please drop a comment below. Let's talk about that friction. And if you are ready to stop being a spectator in your own life and start being the practitioner, step into a Kyokushin dojo and give this a try. You might be surprised in what you find there about yourself. The dojo awaits you. See you on the mat. Arigato. Most people think the Kyokushin mindset is about breaking concrete blocks or taking a kick to the thigh without flinching. They see the bruises and they think it's all about toughness. They think it's about pain. But they're missing the point. It's not about the pain. It's about the silence that arrives after the pain has tried to break you.